Get my 6. You'll have to excuse me if I do this with my hand about a million times while I make this video. There's gnats everywhere. Should have worn a hat just to swat them away with. This, I think this is going to be what I would call a very incomplete ghost story because I don't yet have all the answers. There's a reason that here a couple weeks ago, well, there's plenty of reasons, but here a couple weeks ago, I started visiting a church on Sundays. People in the comment section all the time are saying I have demons, I have potentially Bigfoot, Sasquatch, ghosts, all kinds of stuff around here. Need to cast them out in Jesus' name. And I read those comments. I'm like, whatever, I don't know what's going on here. But within about the last month or so, just some things have come up, and I'm going to tell you what those things are. And, I've jokingly made the comment in these videos before that, it's too ironic to be irony, or it's too ironic to be irony. Well, I've come across something here that is too ironic to be irony. And if anything does need to be cast out in Jesus' name, which potentially might be the case, I figured I might need to go out there and kind of reform a relationship with the man before I start. I mean, maybe it's not necessary, but let me explain. So, let's see, it's been about a month now because my wife and son's been in the Philippines for about 5 weeks. They got 3 weeks to go and they're coming back. But about a week after they had left, I was up in the bedroom I use as my office doing some spring cleaning, late spring cleaning. And I was going through a bunch of old paperwork that I just had piling up. And I was still burning in the wood stove. I just stopped burning in the wood stove here at the end of May because it was still getting cold at nights. But just as soon as it turned June, it's like it wasn't getting cold at night anymore. So I was finding tax returns that were older than, enough. They went back enough years to where they were good to start a fire with because I didn't need them anymore. Old bills, stuff like that. I came across the plat of my property. I reproduced it here with a colored pencil because it had actual state route numbers on it, names of the neighbors from when the survey was done, and I didn't want to, put that up here on the internet and blast everybody. And I've talked about creepy internet stalkers. I didn't want to say, hey, creepy internet stalker, here's exactly where I am. Come and find me. Yeah, they're out there. Of course, the thing of it is they already know exactly where I am. Whew. Anyway, trust me, hey, ghosts and ghouls and potentially Bigfoot Sasquatch is not anywhere near as terrifying as real life human being people. So anyway, I come across the old plat and I'm looking at it. And I'm looking at the portion that has my 6.05 acres on it. And again, this is an exact reproduction of it. It has my house, has the road down here. This is where we planted all of our man-made forest and all this stuff. And then I look down here, it says cemetery down here where my fruit orchard is. And I thought, well, the surveyor's got that wrong because that cemetery, which was stated to be in my fruit orchard on the survey, is supposed to be not only on the other side of my property, but on the other side of the property line. Now, I've mentioned that cemetery in videos in the past, and I've gotten right up close to it and actually shown it in some videos. And people have asked, is that on your property? Why don't you clean it up? Well, the answer is no. It's actually right on the other side of the property line, and it's on my neighbor's property. That's why it's all grown up and brambled. If it were on my property, I would probably clear it out, but it's not. And so, but I saw that and I thought, well, the surveyors obviously made a mistake just when they were, labeling the plat. The cemetery should have been up here on this side. But then I started thinking, is it possible that that cemetery is actually on my side of the property line? Do I own that cemetery? Does my property actually extend past that cemetery? Now there's like a barbed wire fence in between the cemetery and what I thought to be my property line. And I always just kind of assumed that was a property line because, but then I thought, no, when people put up fences, they always make sure to put it 10 or 20 feet, on their side of the property line so there's no dispute and you don't have to go up and put the fence, take the fence down and put it back up, if the next property owners want to dispute it. And the woman I bought the property from, she, gave me a little bit of the history of the place in regards to some of the other property owners around it, told me that I didn't care. It was gossip, something about some guy marrying into this other family, and then there was a divorce, and so they'd sneak out in the woods and change the property lines, and I let it go in one ear and out the other because that had nothing to do with me. My property, my family, my business. Everybody else's property, everybody else's family, their business. And it's such a shame. So many people just don't see things that way. As you know, if you followed the channel for a while, I've had to deal with some folks who viewed my property, my family as their business. I had to deal with that. Man, I'll tell you, I'm convinced people that live in the country are crazier than people that live in the city. People who live in the city, they got stuff going on, they got careers, they got that hustle and bustle, and they're too busy with their own lives to get involved with other people's. Man, you get out in the country, and not all. And what most of the folks just keep to themselves and let you keep to yourself. But you got some of these busybodies, don't have anything going on. Man, they'll make your business their business. It can be a mess. And a lot of you folks live in the country, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Whatever. Hey, it makes for good stories. Like in October Nights, 31 Tales for the Halloween season. One of the, actually, this is factual, one of the top selling short story Halloween collections on Amazon. I was looking up some records because, I'm first draft is completely finished. Second draft is completely finished of the new novel. Getting ready to send this thing off to my editor. And so I was looking at records because I've talked about how when I release my next novel very, very soon, I do believe before the month of June is over, all records are going to fall. And as a matter of fact, before the fifth draft, I don't submit it to my editor, Truman Jackson, until I've gone through 5 drafts. Before that's even happened, a personal record has been shattered. The last day that I was writing the first draft of this work, I broke a record for most words written in one day ever by me, this guy. I wrote 12,000 words when I was in the final scene, going through the final push. 12,000 words in one day. It took about 5 or 6 hours. I don't even think I took a break to go to the bathroom. How many words is that? 12,000 words? There's 250 words per page in a published book. So 12,000 divided by 250 equals 48. Approximately 48 pages. So pick up a novel there in your house. Start at page 1. Turn to page 48. Look at that. I wrote that in one morning. A couple mornings ago. The most I'd ever written in one day before this was when we lived back in a certain part of the Philippines many years ago. When I was writing Isle of Capri, I wrote 10,000 words in one day. Shattered that record. 12,000 words in one day. The equivalency of 48 pages. So, I mean, this thing hasn't even been published yet, and already records are falling. So anyway, back to October Nights and what it has to do with this and what it has to do with some new information I've recently found out, which is going to make this story an incomplete ghost story, because I don't know how it ends. You'll remember the final story in October Nights. I think it's called The Ballad of Jim Brown, or Jim Brown's Ballad, where we find out what happened to what I thought was a fictitious ghost potentially haunting this property. We find out about another, what I thought was potentially a fictitious ghost potentially haunting not just this property but surrounding properties, a ghost by the name of Jessup. Note the significance of that tree knock or that bang immediately after I said his name. It's significant, and you're going to understand it as much as I do here in just a second, because again, this is an incomplete story because I haven't gotten to the end of it yet. So I thought, well, you know, I could always ask the guy over there, but I didn't want to try. Listen, I hold this philosophy in my heart. Your friends are your friends, your neighbors are your neighbors, and your co-workers, your business associates are your co-workers or your business associates. It's not a good idea to mix of three, because if you want to lose them from one category, go ahead and throw them in another category. Do business with a friend. See how much longer that person's going to be your friend. Befriend a neighbor. Wait until one of you pisses the other off. See what that's like, living beside somebody you can't stand for who knows how long. It's just not a good idea. I keep my friends in that little box, and I keep my neighbors in that little box, and I keep my business associates in that little box. You want to lose a big business account? Go out there and try to befriend one of your customers, one of your clients. See how long you keep the account. That's just how it goes. And I learned this the hard way through life, and so I just try not to repeat past mistakes. But I saw the guy out. We talk in passing like once every 2 years, and I love it like that. That makes him a perfect neighbor. I got a couple perfect neighbors out here. They wave hi if they see you coming. They wave bye if they see you going, and that's it. None of this coming around to see how you're doing, which is really a way to find out what you're doing. I'm not telling you guys something you don't know. But I happened to see this guy out about a week or so after I found this plat. And I go over and I just ask him, I say, hey, you know, you've been here forever, because this guy's been here since like the early 70s. He's up there. I said, I found the plat. You know, the owner, the previous owner sent it to me. It was real nice of her to do this. She sent it to me after we closed on the property and all this. She sent me a bunch of information on a place she had that she just felt she didn't need anymore, that maybe could help me and my family understand, you know, the property better. And so I told him, I just happened to run across that plat the other day because I was going through some old paperwork and I was throwing stuff out and burning stuff in the fire. And I said, I was looking at the plat, and they had the cemetery listed as being down there where I planted my fruit orchard. And he knows where I planted the fruit orchard. You know, when I talked to him 2 years ago, he was very complimentary on all the stuff we'd done with the trees, and he thought it looked beautiful. And I said thanks, and didn't see him again for another 2 years, or didn't talk to him again for another 2 years. And it was great. Hey, it wouldn't bother me a bit if I don't talk to him for another 2 years. And I got nothing against him, and he's got nothing against me. It's just, he's not my friend. He understands I'm not his friend. And best way to keep the peace with people that, you know, border your surroundings is don't have anything to do with them. Works for me. And I said, so I got to ask you, though, either the surveyors, I told him about what was on the plat. I said, did the surveyors get it wrong? And I said, I'm not, you know, accusing you of nothing, but is that cemetery over there on your property actually on my property? Does my property line actually extend that far over? And he goes, nope. He goes, that cemetery's on my property. He says, right here where this, you know, fence where we were talking at, the old barbed wire fence some farmer put up forever ago, hasn't been used in forever, said, this is pretty much a property line. He said, there's a iron post down at the base, down there by the road, down here by where the state route is. And I've found that. There's a big poplar tree, and I've found the post, and I made a, you know, just mentally pictured it all straight up to back up here behind the campground into the woods a ways is the other post. And I said, well, yeah, I found that. That's what I thought. And that cemetery over on your side is clearly on that side of that line that runs up from iron post to iron post. So Shirley, and he said, don't call me Shirley, but you remember that from the airplane movie, Leslie Nelson, is that was his name? Okay, so a movie from the 80s. He goes, no, he says, that's right. And he said, they were right too. There's a cemetery down there in your fruit orchard. I just got chills again thinking about it, because this is news to me. I've been here 5 years. And I said, well, there's no markers, there's no headstones, there's no indication that there's any old cemetery there. And he goes, oh, I know. He says, there used to be. This is back when he moved to the area back in the 1970s. But he said, when that old boy, the annoying neighbor, did you guys hear what sounded like a cat meowing or a cat purring? I just heard it, and it sounded so close. I thought Cleopatra was right here. But look, there is no cat here. There's nothing here. Let's keep our eyes open over here, back this way. So anyway, you know, the guy ran off the crayon, used to go around here bullying everybody to get their hay or whatever, you know. He said that guy removed the stone markings so he could just cut hay. Pretty much acted like this cemetery just wasn't even there. Just, he saw it as another, I don't know, maybe 30 feet by 30 feet section that he could just get a little bit more hay out of, maybe 1/8 of a bale or whatever. And so he moved the stones, got rid of them. And the guy told me that even back then when that happened, you couldn't read the writing on them anymore. You couldn't read the dates, you couldn't read the names, but everybody before that, just kind of out of respect, left them there. Well, until the hay collector comes around, of course. He just, like my shirt, you can get it on Amazon. And I didn't design this one. People just always ask me when they see it where they can get it. I bought it on Amazon for like 20 bucks. There. Not sponsored, not promoted. I don't get any money for that. All right. So anyway, I just found out within the last month, my wife and kid doesn't even know about this yet because I didn't tell them. I guess I'll tell them when I get back. So I thought, well, who's buried there? Who could it be? So I happened to be in town just a few days ago, and I stopped by the courthouse because I know they keep records. So I go in there, and I was just talking to some wonderful older lady in there who looked bored out of her mind, sitting in there watching the clock, waiting for it to turn 3:30 so she could lock up and leave or something. I guess the courthouse closes at 4, so most of them leave at 3:30. You know how that goes. No offense, courthouse people, but y'all know how that goes. So I start talking to her. I tell her where I live. I tell her, you know, the situation. I've recently just found out that there's like an unmarked cemetery or unmarked grave on part of my property. And she laughed and she said, "Sir, if you had any idea how many unmarked cemeteries there are, how many unmarked graves," she said, "shoot, the university over there is built mostly on unmarked graves between the Monacan Indian tribe that was here long before any white settlers got here, and the unmarked graves of the enslaved people that they just work until they drop dead and pretty much bury them where they fell." I said, "I know all that." And I said, "And I'm very familiar with the concept of unmarked graves pretty much throughout Appalachia, the Blue Ridge Mountains. They're everywhere." And she goes, "I know." So she goes, "It's hard to tell. There could be unmarked graves on your property that you'll never know about." And I said, "Well, is there any way I could find out going through the record books to see back how far these things go to maybe get an idea?" And she goes, "Well, we could look." And she said, "Where'd you say you live again?" I told her. She wrote it down. She pulls out some big old book of records like this. We start flipping through the pages, and it went way back. I can't remember exactly how far back, because she said something to me when she got to this general location out here, not my property specific. I want to make sure I'm not telling this story any differently than it really happened. We couldn't pinpoint this specifically to my property, but she kind of pinpointed it to this general vicinity, this general area. And I forgot pretty much everything she said before or after that. She turns the page and she goes, "Well, this is where it ends. We can only go back to about as far as the Jessup family living in that area." The Jessup family. The name that somehow came to me as a supposed fictitious character in October Nights who was haunting this place. If you haven't read it, you got to. It's available from Amazon, print and Kindle. Links in the description box below. Read it. I came home, I Googled it. Jessup, I found out, is a very English name, going back to about the year 1000 in England. It is a derivative of the word Joseph. It became a surname around the year 1000, and the Jessup families with the last name of Jessup settled in this area back in the 1600s. And I may or may not have some of their kinfolk laying down here in the ground underneath my fruit trees in my fruit orchard. There's your story for today. Sorry it couldn't be any more detailed than that, but that's all the details I've got. See you for more next time.